All right, well, welcome back, everyone, and again, good morning. My name is Remy from Logix, and Mina and I are delighted to continue this series with you. Our mBlock Makeblock Steam on Board mBlock 5 course. Happy Friday to everyone. I hope you've had a wonderful week. I know the school year is coming to an end if it already hasn't, depending on where you're joining from in the country. And I know this is, quite a different time and quite a different year than we're used to in June. I know, some of you have already done your report cards. This is a time normally when we're bidding farewell to all of our students. So it's definitely a different experience doing it virtually and not having had that connection with our students. So I appreciate everyone taking the time during this different experience to be learning with us, to be investing in your own learning and for your students, which is really wonderful. So I'll get started so we can continue our learning and give more time for questions and answers at the end. And so hopefully that we'll get to delve even deeper today. So again, for everyone, a refresher to make sure to open up mBlock 5 software, to open up and download this week's material, and to, as always, continue the conversation on the Logix educator community, on Participate, to under the mBlock 5 discussion group, and to join the mBlock global community. And again, all that can be accessed on under Steam on Board website on Logix's website, which is logixacademy.com/Steam on Board, which I'm sharing with you on the screen. And again, there, if you scroll down, we're almost there. We're almost at the end. So today we're at Pandas Travel. Again, you can download the curriculum material and you'll notice all the lessons before are available, as well as the video recordings available there for the English series. We have one more next Friday, which will be our last one. So make sure if you have any questions as you're going through, we'll give more time next week for Q&A as well, and today. And as always, all this material will be available for you so you can continuously use it with your students. This training, which we've been doing, is been brought to you as part of our overall virtual training series, workshops that we've been running that really empower educators to delve deeper into remote learning, into robotics and coding and STEM with their students. So we're delighted to have been able to offer this series, and we continue to offer it. There's only one more week right now until the end of the school year before we announce our New Year effort. So make sure to sign up for any last courses. There's quite a lineup for next week. So make sure to register for any courses you're interested in. There's a variety in remote learning as well as in robotics and coding that you are able to join. Again, take the time to join the community, and let's keep the conversation going throughout the summer. And last but not least, as I shared with you last week, we're super excited to have launched the Canadian Storytelling in Minecraft Challenge. It's been going on, and registrations are due Friday, so 1 week from today by midnight. So make sure to encourage your students. I know during our office hours that we have every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, we've had lots of teachers pop in and ask questions and share what they're working on with their students. I know, we're all getting excited to submit. We already have a couple of submissions. So make sure to work with your students, or just share the information forward with your students so that they can participate. Again, it's all the resources and information are available at logixacademy.com/Canadian storytelling. And there's videos. There's actually a series of videos to help students and teachers getting started. So following this getting started tutorial will guide you right through the whole process, from downloading the world to all the way. There's over $30,000 in prizes which will be go to the recipient's school. So they're automatically entered by just submitting a video. They don't have to do anything else. And the winners will get this whole prize pack for their classroom. So how exciting will it be for that those 3 prize winners to get this amazing prize pack for their whole school. So encourage your students to submit. And if you have any questions, you can join us at the scheduled time every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern. So today at 1 p.m. Eastern, you just click here during that time, and that link takes you directly there, and we have a whole bunch of other resources for you. So that's all the information and updates. But again, make sure to take a moment to sign up for any of the training courses that are available. And for today, we're super excited to be continuing our series in lesson 6. So take a moment to download the material if you haven't already for lesson 7, Pandas Travel. And online here, you'll be able to access the material, and I'll be turning it over to Nina, who will be leading us in today's workshop. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask in the chat, and we'll be able to support you throughout the workshop today.
All right, thank you once again, Rami, and I'm excited to facilitate this session. This is workshop 7 of 8. As Rami said, we are ending off next week, and I hope you're excited to see what's coming up next week and actually what we're going to be doing today. So really excited to get started with you and continue our learning throughout these series. If you haven't done so already, please open the files or download the files and open the files that were available to you in the folder there, or the link that that Rami showed you on the Steam on Board page. And I always open up the lesson plan, the PowerPoint, an mBlock 5 new file, and we'll go through some of the examples together today, just to show you what we're going to be doing. So if you recall from last week, as I start sharing my screen here, last week we got Panda to meet Jordan, who was a soccer player, and part of his journey in his time on Earth is the fact that he's learning how to play soccer by watching Jordan, who was a soccer player, play. So we've given you the opportunity, and some of you actually posted in the global community on mBlock, where you programmed Jordan to kick the ball and gave it numerous options, whether it's hitting the net direct or hitting it a little bit above, hopefully hitting the goalpost and bouncing off, or really missing the mark and kicking it out of the field there. So I hope you had the opportunity to do that and upload it to the mBlock community and share it with everyone, and have that opportunity to explore the different costume blocks that we explored last week. And we're going to build on this this week and hopefully get you to see how we can change backgrounds. So I have the lesson plan open here, and if you can follow with me or on your own file there. The main objectives, as the lesson plan outlines, we're going to create a program in mBlock which incorporates a conditional statement. So today, this is really exciting. We are going to get our program to make decisions for itself, rather than just us as users making decisions for the sprites and making decisions for the program. So we are going to introduce conditional statements, and if you're familiar with them, great. We'll actually show you how to get familiar and get your learners familiar with it if they are not that tuned in with coding. The second thing we're going to see, the second objective, is the motion blocks to control the rebound and the rotation of a sprite. So we're actually going to rotate sprites today. We're going to also define conditional statements formally, and then we're also going to describe the functionality of a computer program. And you can see what the overview here is, and part of this overview explains the conditional statements, and the students will program in mBlock to decide to run specific blocks only when a condition is true. So that's really important for us to remember, and as we go along through this session. As always, there are the national standard, the CSTA, and the ISTE standards available in each of the lessons that we have, as well as the provincial standards aligned to the provinces here, covering mainly math topics or ADST if you're in BC, and they are all available in the lesson plans that we have. So I'll head over to the PowerPoint just to go over a warm-up of what we did last week, and then this is actually a very quick lesson, so that will give us some time to build and discuss what's happening in the programs, but also share some questions if you have near the end. And you'll notice that as we progress through these lessons, there's going to be less time of actually teaching the blocks and how to use the blocks, and more time for the learners themselves, because this is now 7 lessons in, more time for the learners to actually explain, test them out, test the programs on their own, and then explain by writing it down or talking to a partner. So you'll see that shift in the lesson plans gradually through these 8 sessions. So today's session is called Pandas Travel, and as we review last week, we saw Jordan being able to kick the ball by using different specific costume selection and switching between those selections, and also the glide block. We saw that you don't want the ball to go to a specific XY coordinate, but rather to glide there and take its time, or go a little bit faster if you wanted to, if you got a nice strike or another nice strong leg there, to get it into the goal. So we use these blocks today, and we're going to build upon newer blocks as well as the old ones for today. And just to refresh your memory, or if you are new for today's session, the blocks that we used included switch costume to, and in the drop-down menu allows you to select a specific costume. The glide block allows you to move smoothly to a specific position in the stage at a specific time. So the glide number of seconds to a particular XY coordinate. And then we also saw how to show and hide especially the soccer ball, because we had the soccer ball kind of go off stage, so we wanted to hide it after, but also show up when the program began to run. So so I hope this refreshed your memory a little bit on reviewing last week's session. Now for today, I want to start with a video, and this video is available in one of the files in your folder that was downloaded. It is called Pandas Travel Slideshow, I believe. So if you have that available, I want to play this video for you, and I'll explain how you can use that in your lesson plan. And there's a specific reason why we have this video, and why we're not showing you the code. So we'll play the video, and then in the chat, let's see what is happening through this video, and you can use that time in the chat to explain what's happening. So here's the video. I'm gonna play it for you. Oops, give me 1 second as I adjust this. Okay, Here we go. So we'll watch it maybe once or twice, and then as you're watching, please go ahead and type in the chat and explain what is happening to Panda and what is happening to the stage overall. So here we go. You run the program, and what is happening with Panda? So please, you can go ahead and type in the chat what you are noticing, and this is something that you can share with your learners and play this video with them and ask them the same question. What is happening to Panda? Or you can even ask more specific questions like, what does the code look like, right? Or what could be the code that this video is showing there. So take a minute. I'm going to play this again if you haven't had a chance to see it, and write down what you see and what you are observing for Panda doing on the stage. So I see a couple of chats coming in. Panda is changing costumes. Absolutely. He is walking through the formation or the changing of the costumes. He is not gliding. Okay, so unfortunately, he's not using the glide block to glide across. And he is bouncing. So he's bouncing off the edges of the stage. And what else is happening? I see Ryan says he's moving from one environment to another. Yep, very good. So we can kind of dig deeper and to see, what's affecting the change of the environment or the backgrounds. And also Bridget says he's turning around and going the other way. So these are really awesome observations, and these are all correct, and how you're explaining it will help in your formation of the code in just a minute. So the main point of this video is that you're going to show it to your learners and gather this information from them. And this is actually right in the lesson plan. If you scroll down a little bit, it says in Explore mBlock program, it says play the video recording of Panda's travels, and then have your students write an explanation, which we just did kind of through this chat. And you can ask them these following questions. So I didn't ask you these questions, but these are the two questions that you can ask them. What action does Panda perform when the program starts? And then the second question is, what happens when Panda reaches the edge of the stage? Both of which you have answered in one way or another, and the potential answers are available in bullet points over here. Now, there is a note as part of this video, and it's right here on the lesson plan if you can see it. It says this example program or this video is the example of the independent practice section of this lesson. So you have to take care not to show the code of this to the students during this part, so during the warm-up session, and that's why there is a video recording of this program available to you for your convenience to play. And the reason why we don't want to do this is we don't want to show the learners right away this program. We want them to explore on their own and explain a little bit more how the program is working and how the program is running. So this is just a quick note on the lesson plan. So I hope you are able to see it on there. Now, just going back to the PowerPoint, this is really, as I said, this is a really quick session where we're right away getting our hands on and exploring a couple of new blocks together. And we're also going to do some explanation together. So we're going to be using the chat a lot this time around. So the new blocks that we're going to explore today is called bounce and rotation. Bounce and rotation. And both of these blocks are found under the motion menu of mBlock 5. So it's the blue colored block. And the first block is called if on edge bounce. And the edge refers to the edge of the stage, not the edge of your computer screen. So the edge of the stage. So if the sprite, moves towards the edge of the stage, let's say to the right or the left or anywhere around, it will bounce off or move in the opposite direction. So this is a really neat tool. If you are an avid gamer, you can think of things like Pong or getting things to bounce off each other or bounce off the walls. These are some of the blocks. This is one of the blocks that you would use if on edge bounce. The second block that you will be using today is set rotation style. And this one says left to right, and we'll see the different options available in that drop-down menu. So these are the two blocks that we will be exploring today. Now, this is something new that we haven't seen yet in the past 6 lessons. And in this 7th lesson, we are going to compare and contrast. We're going to ask our learners, and you can leave this slide on for your learners in the classroom or virtually as you are going through this lesson, and ask them to build each of these programs. And what you'll notice between program 1, 2, and 3 is that it builds upon each other. So the first program has a forever loop with an event when flag is clicked, move 5 steps, and then the next costume. And it keeps adding one block after in each of these programs. So in program 2, it adds a block called if on edge bounce. And then in program 3, it adds another block called set rotation style left to right. And the main point of this slide is to ask your learners to compare and explain and contrast what is happening as you are updating that code from program 1 to program 2 to program 3. So we're going to do this together. And as I am building and as you are building your code on mBlock 5, please go ahead and enter into the chat what is happening in each of these scenarios and kind of write an explanation of what you're observing there. So I'm going to open a new mBlock 5, and if you're joining us for the first time or if you just need to refresh your memory, mBlock 5 always opens up with the Devices tab, which is Cody Rocky. We don't need the Devices tab. We haven't connected to any yet in this series. Hopefully, in future ones, we get to use devices. But if you click on sprites, this is the main part where we get to control Panda or any of our characters that we add. And we're going to build the code that we just saw here, and it's program 1, an event, forever, move 5 steps, and next costume. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's add our flag event. And I'm going to run this code, and you're going to hopefully pop in the chat and be able to explain what is happening in this code. And we actually may have seen this before, so this should not be new to you, and it should not be new to your learners, but something to help them kind of get started in their lesson, or in today's lesson as they are learning. So I'm going to add my costume, my next costume block, and when you are ready, there's 2 ways to run the program. You can either click on the green flag underneath the stage, or you can click on your actual block of code on the script area. So it doesn't matter what you do, it will still run the code. So I've just run it. I'm going to maybe run it again. Panda was a little bit too quick. So I'm going to move him back, press flag, and pop in the chat and type in what you are noticing. And I'm going to continue this program running just to see what you are observing. And we'll see what you come up with this particular code. I'm going to bring Panda back to the stage a little bit, and you'll see what you come up with the explanation. This is program 1. We're going to be comparing and contrasting between programs 2 and program 3. So take a minute and either try it on your own on mBlock 5 or share in the chat what you're noticing there. and my program is continuing to run, excuse me, it's continuing to run because I do have a forever loop, and I do have the program continuously moving and Panda moving across the screen. So really great comment here. Once he comes to the edge of the screen, he continues to walk because the code is repeating. Excellent observation. And that's exactly what Panda is doing. He's just walking. There's no block that says what to do when you get to the edge. He's just walking as the program is built to do. So I'm actually I'm gonna stop the code and bring Panda by clicking and dragging him to somewhere in the center of the stage here. And we're going to add one more block. This is program 2, if you recall. One more block into that code. So this is if on edge bounce. Because we observed the fact that he's not bouncing off the edge, we need to add that block. So it's under motion. And we're going to add, it's a little bit lower in the menu there. So if on edge bounce. And let's run the code one more time and pop in the chat and explain what you're observing. And this is something that your learners will be doing as well. So here we go. And we notice a problem. And if you have noticed that problem too, please type it in the chat and explain what that problem is. But we kind of solved one, right? We solved one where he is really bouncing off the edge. But what is happening? What is the problem here when he does bounce off the edge? We didn't expect that to happen. And especially your learners will be like, I don't know what's going on. Why is he upside down, right? Why is he upside down after bouncing or going off the edge? So this is something that they should be explaining in their program, that yes, he is upside down and he's walking after he turns and bounces off the edge. So Ryan, you are right. We are missing a directional code, and that's actually part of the third program, which we'll just add in just a minute. So if you look at program 3, there is a set rotation style left to right. So we're going to add this block just above the if on edge bounce. And this will help us set the rotation or set the style of how we want Panda to be. And this is actually right under the if on edge bounce block in the motion menu. And we're going to keep it at left and right, but if you click on the drop down menu, you will see options like don't rotate and all around. So I will go through these and I'll change them as we go along, but let's start with left to right and then see if this solves our problem of keeping the rotation or the position of Panda in the right direction. So let's test this out and see what's happening. And does this solve the problem? I believe it does. He's not upside down anymore. He is bouncing, and he is kind of moving in the way that we want him to and in the direction that we want him to. So this should be a progression between programs 1, 2, and 3 that your learners should have kind of grasped just by building these programs on their own and writing an explanation of this particular code. And as we have this program running, let's change the style here. So I'm going to do don't rotate and let's see what happens. And at one point, you'll see that Panda is kind of doing the moonwalk, right? So he's walking backwards and doing the moonwalk there, and he hasn't really changed his rotation style, right? He's always pointing in one direction. So that's hopefully something that you have noticed, and hopefully your learners would have noticed if they go ahead and change that style. And then the final option there is all around. So let's see what happens here. So what you'll notice in this one, as my program is running, is he is changing his direction, but he's also being able to switch in another direction, which is up and upside down. So it encompasses all the different rotation styles in that particular block of code. So I hope this helped a little bit with your understanding of this very simple block set rotation style. And in most of the programs that we run, we do use the left to right because that is how some of the potential programs are used, and how especially like video games and things like that, they need to use a left to right position, and it would look kind of weird if things are upside down unless you intended it to be that way. But to answer a question here in the chat, what is the point of it? In this particular program, there is no point for this lesson, but it's just a way to show learners that the Panda can bounce off and change its direction, but also change the direction, not just from left and right, but from up and down. So so it's just a way to get the sprite to turn in all the different directions that are available, not just by moving straight. So because Panda is moving in straight 5 steps, if he has turned, if we use the rotation block or the turn X number of degrees, we will see that the Panda can do different rotation styles if we want him to. But for this particular lesson, it's just an exploration type to see what these options do. So just for today's lesson, there is no point, just to explore that together. So just going back to, I hope this was a little bit more fun for you as you explored the 3 programs there, and hopefully this will engage your students or your learners a little bit more. And this next slide also allows you to show them to try these different effects and see what happens. And we just saw that with in program 3. Now we get into what the lesson plan calls game time. So we're going to you could play this game with your learners. I'm not going to play this game with you, and it's actually in the lesson plan. So I'll pop in the lesson plan and show you where that is as part of the game time portion of the lesson. And it's right before you introduce conditionals. And this game is very similar to Simon Says. So you can play a game called Simon Says with your class to act like a hook or an introduction to conditionals, because maybe some of your learners may not grasp conditionals right away, and some may do it, may grasp it right away, and that's absolutely fine. But those that are struggling or need more time to grasp this concept, this is a really cool game that you can play with them. So Simon Says is a game where in this particular lesson, you ask them 5 questions, and you're going to iterate the if and the then. So these are the 5 questions that you will ask them. So question 1, if your name has the letter S in it, then raise your hand. So hopefully they will start to realize, oh, my name has the letter S, I'm going to raise my hand. And if my name doesn't have, I will not raise my hand, and so forth. Question 2, if you have a pet, clap your hands. Question 3. Number 4, if you are wearing socks, then touch your feet. If ice cream is chocolate, then say yum. So you're of Simon Says, and you can then explain to them and share these examples with them as being a conditional statement. And in programming, conditional statements are used to perform specific actions if a condition is true. And then you can see that it's bolded and underlined to explain that particular description of conditional statements. So I'm going to move back to the PowerPoint here because I just wanted to show you in that lesson plan how you can play this game and how you can incorporate this hook for your learners. But this is a game that you can play in your classrooms. And right away, you have introduced statements. And again, you can see that use a conditional statement is used to perform specific actions if a condition is true. So if you look at the example on the slide here to the right, it says if touching mouse pointer, then hide. And we're actually going to build this code together and play around with it and explore a little bit more to see what is happening with our code and with our Panda that we haven't changed yet. So we're going to build this code and we're going to see how this works. Now, there is a program description on the next slide that can help you do this. So you need a block that starts the program. You need a block to show the sprite. You need a block, which is a conditional statement to check if the condition is true. And then you need a block to hide it, as well as continue to check that statement. And we're going to see a very important block here if it's not incorporated versus it being involved in the program. So the two blocks that are new, you may have used this before. We may have used the sensing block where it says touching edge or touching a particular sprite. But the newer one that we haven't explored today is called if then, and it's found under the control section of the control menu. And this is a conditional statement that checks whether a condition is met inside this hexagonal area here. And if the condition is met, or if it's true, then it will proceed to execute this action that is underneath the statement. So, or it nested inside the statement there. And then finally, we have the sensing block touching mouse pointer. And this block it's used in the conditional statement to determine if this condition is true or if it's met. So let's build this program together. And if you pop into mBlock 5, we'll do so. And again, if you have this code, you can always delete it and move it to the side, and it will kind of disappear there, and it will make a nice deletion sound. And let's take out the blocks that we require for today. So we have an event, we have a forever loop, show and hide, if block, if then block, and a mouse pointer. So let's take those out, and you can demonstrate that with your students by taking out specific blocks. You can put them around your script area, and then feel free to plug them in as you are explaining. So I'm going to do the same thing just to model that for you. So we're going to show, we're going to hide, we need a forever loop, and we need an if statement. Okay, so these are all the blocks that we need for this particular program. And we can start by, and as you can see on the PowerPoint, that you need to show your sprite first, and then we're going to make a condition. If it's touching the mouse pointer, the sprite will hide. So the sprite here in our case is Panda. So let's add the forever loop. Let's add the show block. Let's add the if statement underneath show. And this is another important point. We are always used to adding, and you can see that shadow come up for the hide block as I add it. We're always used to adding the blocks where the cursor is or where my mouse is. But especially for if statements, it's really important to notice that the beginning of the block, or where the block starts, is where it will connect. And if I try to move it, let's say from the back end of this block, there's nothing that highlights in the if statement. So this is really important for you, because a lot of your learners will say, you know, Mister, I can't put in my sensing block inside the if statement. And this is really important for you to explain, is that the beginning of the block is the one that goes in and is the one that highlights for you to, as soon as you let go, it will connect and it will allow for that block to fit in. So you will notice that anytime there is an hexagonal shape, that block is the one that could fit and nothing else. You can't put an operator in here because it is a round or an oval shape. So only the hexagonal shapes are allowed to be inserted there. So once again, I'm going to run this code. Hopefully you have built it on your end if you have mBlock 5 installed or using the online version. But run this code, and you can pop in the chat and explain what is happening as we are running this code. So I'm going to press the flag, and let's see what happens. What is happening here? I'm moving my mouse towards the panda, and what happens when I do? You can pop in the chat and explain here. This is something really cool that you can play with your learners here, and you explain to them what's happening. Awesome. So when I put my mouse on panda, he disappears. That is absolutely right. So exactly as we have coded for it to do, it will show, right? And this code is running forever. It will show, and as soon as this condition is met, and this condition is if touching the mouse pointer, so if my sprite is touching the mouse pointer in any way, whether it's the top or the bottom or wherever it is, the edge, it will hide. And this is exactly what we see. So that's awesome. Thank you for sharing on the chat. Now I'm going to do one quick change, and we'll see what's going to happen now. I'm going to take out the forever loop. And some of you are saying, what is he doing? I don't know why he's taking out the forever loop. Let's see what happens here. So we're going to run this program. The condition is still there, right? If touching mouse pointer, then hide. But we're going to see what happens here. I'm going to run the code, and feel free to type in the chat. I'm going to try to touch the panda. And feel free to type in, I'm trying to run the code, but my panda is not disappearing. Why is that? Nothing is happening. That's right. Why is nothing happening in this particular code when we're removing the forever loop? What is the point of a conditional statement and its use with a forever loop? And this is something that I want to point out for this lesson. So take a second and maybe write an explanation or a quick, one-liner as to running this code versus not seeing panda disappear as he should be, because I do have my mouse on him and he's not disappearing. So and I hope you can see that difference, and we're going to go through that slide in just a minute to explain that difference. But what you'll notice is this conditional statement is only checking if you are touching the mouse, or if panda is touching the mouse pointer once. So this is happening only one time. And if we have the forever loop, and thank you, Jamie, for pointing that, it's not continually looking for that conditional. Absolutely. Once we put in the forever loop, what happens is you will see that this nice glow around your block that shows that this is continuously checking. Is the panda touching the mouse pointer? Is the panda touching the mouse pointer? Is the panda touching the mouse pointer? If it is, then hide. So it's constantly checking, and this is the power of forever and conditional loops together versus just conditionals on their own. And both of them have their own purposes as they are, but the power is really big when you do have forever and and conditional statements together. So this is something that your learners can also go through and you can explain to them that difference, and they can actually observe it as well. So thank you for all who shared in the chat as we were going through that today. So I hope you saw that main difference between having a forever loop and not having a forever loop with an if statement. And I'll show you that part of the slide, and I kind of skipped over a little bit, and you can see, you know, with the program having a forever loop, right, versus when it doesn't. So this is part of the lesson where you can go through with your learners and explain the importance of having to constantly check or continually check if the condition is met. So that's a really important part of today's lesson that we are going to, or hopefully you will explain to your learners. Now, with that, we're going to jump into the independent practice. So as I mentioned, this is something that this lesson is really quick, and it allows just for more exploration on your learner's end. And in this independent practice, we will see how to change background or switch backdrop to just the same way that we have switched switched costumes in the Sprite Panda or in other sprites. And although the word costume is available in the backdrop, it's kind of just explaining that backdrops can have multiple costumes as well. So whether you have a sprite or whether you have a background, they're all called costumes as you add them or as you switch through them. So I hope that that helps a little bit with the understanding of costumes. So today we're going to learn a new block called next backdrop, and also switch backdrop to, and you can choose a particular backdrop that you would like to use. And part of the independent practice, which I will open up the code for you today, and you can kind of go through it with your learners or have them try this on their own, where we're going to trigger Panda to walk across the stage while changing costumes, which we already did. So that was taken care of. We're going to program Panda to turn around instead of walking off the edge of the stage and make sure Panda doesn't turn upside down. So that was another thing that we did. But we're also going to add our if statement. Now, in the previous code that I just showed you, if Panda touched the mouse pointer, he hid. But this time, if Panda touches edge, we're going to change the backdrop, and we're going to have 5 different backdrops that you can add. You need to add a starting position for Panda where you want him to start on the screen there, and also setting the starting backdrop. So let's open the file that we have available to us in the folder that we have downloaded. And this file is called Lesson 7 Pandas Travel Slideshow, and this is found under the example programs folder. You may need to have unzipped it if it has downloaded as a zipped file. So you just need to unzip it in order for you to access the actual mBlock files, and you can see that with the icon for mBlock 5 there. So I'm going to open Lesson 7 Pandas Travel Slideshow, and we'll go through this lesson together and show you how you can add very quickly the backgrounds, and that will kind of end off our session for today, and we'll go through the quiz as always near the end of the session. If it asks if the file has been modified, you want to save it. I don't want to save this particular question, this particular file, so I just click on no. And question from Oliver here, when I open the file, it goes really quick. It could be, I don't know why it's doing that. It could be maybe the steps, so maybe tinker around with the steps, or it could be the using the online version. So I'm not quite sure what's happening there, but maybe tinker around with the move steps and see if that helps a little bit. So I've just opened the example program there, and you can see that incorporated. We can run. I'm going to read this code with you together, and you can share that and model that with your learners to read through their code. So forever move 5 steps, switch to the next costume. This is Panda moving. Okay, moving across to the screen. But guess what? If Panda is touching the edge, so this is also found from the sensing menu. Okay, so instead of if touching mouse pointer, you can change that to the edge, and that will be put in the condition portion of the if statement. If it touches the edge, it's going to switch to the next backdrop. And this is important to have, and I'll show you how to add backdrops. And we have the set rotation style left to right, and if on edge bounce. So not just having the if touching edge next backdrop, that doesn't solve the problem of bouncing off the edge. You really need that if on edge bounce block. Okay, so the if statement only tells the program, and I'm going to run the program, and we saw it earlier with the video, that's if it's touching the edge, it's going to switch the background, not bounce. So so we have this code. You can play this, and we saw this earlier with the video, that once it touches the edge, it will bounce, and as soon as it bounces, it changes the backdrop, or as soon as it touches the edge, it changes the backdrop. And we do have a forever loop, so this condition will always be checked and will always be met if Panda is touching the edge. How do you add backgrounds? Again, if you go to the backgrounds tab, you will see that there are costumes that you can add. You can click on this plus button. And what's really neat about mBlock 5 is that you can add different pictures that you have saved on your computer, and you can explain, and you can use this in your classroom as well to explain, different parts of the world. So you can get your learners to share maybe the different parts of the world that they have traveled to or visited, and really get them to share their experiences with everyone through these background libraries there. So you can see that you can upload right from your computer. If you click on that upload button, it will get you to your files that are saved on your computer, and then you can go ahead and select that particular background, or you can create your own title or background using the paint, and that's how they did that with Pandas Travel. You can add a sprite, and you can type in. I'll show you how to do that in just a second. But what you'll notice if you click on costumes, as you add your 5 costumes, you will see the 5 different costumes available, just the same way we saw how Panda has 2 costumes and how Jordan, the soccer player, had 4. You can see the different backgrounds, or the different costumes of the backgrounds available that it's going to switch from, or switch to rather. So you can see that available to you as you have added it. And in sprites, you will see that there is a title sprite that was added. So you can add a new sprite, click on the edit portion, and then you will see that you can add a text box, and you can type in whatever you would like the title to be. You can call it Walk Around the World, right? And really make that different fonts and different text styles, and play around with the colors and so on. So you can really do really neat things with titles on here. So that is about it for in terms of coding and really showing you the independent practice as well as the extensions. you can get your learners to add new sprites and create a title, as I showed you earlier. You can program Panda to say the location when the backdrop changes, so beach or mountains or whatever he's switching to, and then maybe add a friend who traveled with Panda to all of the different locations. So these are some extensions that you can do with your learners. Finally, this is the review that you can do, and we'll go through this quickly, and we'll open some time for questions, and feel free to type those questions in. But again, use the chat to type in your answer for question 1. Which of the programs below can make the character speak or say hello for 2 seconds? And remember, this is an if statement, so it needs to be met. This needs to be true in order for it to be correct. Is it A, B, C, or D? So please type in your answer there. And I see a lot of C's coming in. C is correct because the condition of 70 greater than 50 is true. So therefore, Panda will say hello for 2 seconds. The others are not true, so therefore the if statement will not run. Awesome. Number 2, what condition needs to be met to make the sprite disappear? Is it A, when the green flag is clicked, B, when the sprite touches the mouse pointer, C, when the stage touches the mouse pointer, or D, when blocks touch the mouse pointer? So take a second and type in the answer there. And we saw this already because this is part of the question and what we did earlier. B is correct when the sprite touches the mouse pointer. So this particular code is for a sprite. The question already has that the answer in it, so it says the sprite. Finally, question 3. What's the shape of the condition being met in a conditional statement? So this is kind of a little bit tricky for you or maybe for your learners. What is the shape of the condition portion that needs to be met? So take a second and answer there. Is it A, B, C, or D? The answer is A. That's correct. It is the hexagonal shape there that needs to be met, that needs to be inserted inside the if statement for the if statement to be run and met at the same time. So that's about it for me today. I hope you enjoyed this session as we went through this session together. And I just want to remind everyone to try to complete the independent practice on your own and upload it to the mBlock community on planet.mblock.cc with your particular login information. And with that, I'll pass it on to Rami for any Q&A that you may have with me.
Great. Thank you so much, Mina, for another awesome lesson. And I hope everyone enjoyed that and followed along. And again, we'll have our final one next week, lesson 8 for this series. And hope you can join us for other training as part of our virtual training series in the week to come.